All right, so jumping right in, we're tackling, well, a tough one today. Liam Payne's death. It's a lot to unpack, and I know people are trying to make sense of it all, especially with all the rumors floating around. We've got this New York Post article. They lay out a lot of the details, and that autopsy report, so that's our focus. Trying to get you guys a clearer picture, sticking to what we know.
Yeah, separating those facts from all the
Hmm.
speculation out there.
Yeah.
Especially with a case like this, it gets complicated. High profile, lots of opinions.
Absolutely. And for anyone who might not, remember Liam Payne, he was part of One Direction.
Huge, huge band.
Global phenomenon, millions of fans. It's just tragic. 31 years old. So this article, it talks about how the police were called to his hotel room in Buenos Aires. Reports of a man sounded like he was really agitated. And then they find Payne down in the hotel's courtyard, dead.
And that's where you get that initial wave of confusion, right? Because at first, a lot of places were saying he jumped.
But the autopsy, that's where things get a little clearer. Yeah.
It does. See, the official cause of death, they're calling it polytrauma, internal and external hemorrhage. Now, that might sound like a mouthful.
Medical jargon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But basically what they're saying is he died from all these severe injuries,
Yeah.
and they all line up with a fall.
Okay, so not just the small tumble. Polytrauma, that sounds pretty serious.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking major impact here.
Yeah.
Not a trip and a bruise. The severity of what they're describing, it tells you this was a significant fall.
And this is where it gets even more, I don't know, strange. The report also says that Payne might not have even been fully conscious when he fell. Like he might have been unconscious or barely there. How would they even figure that out?
So they look at a few things. The way his body's positioned when they found him, the specific types of injuries, and then there's this whole thing about defensive wounds. Like if someone's aware they're falling, they'll usually try to protect themselves, right? So if there's no sign of that, it could mean he wasn't totally with it.
It's like trying to put together this puzzle, right? Where every little thing could be important.
You got it. Every piece of information they can gather, it all paints a picture.
So, okay, there were these two women, right? They were with Payne in his room just hours before, then they left. But what they told investigators, that's got to be huge, right?
Oh, absolutely. Witness statements, they're crucial in a case like this. The police, they want to build a timeline, figure out what was going on in those last hours, how Payne was acting, all that. And if these women, if what they say matches up with the other evidence, or if it contradicts things, that tells them a lot.
So even if they weren't there right when it happened, what they do know about those last few hours.
Could be the key. And it's not even just what they saw directly. Could be something Payne said or something they heard. It all matters.
And speaking of details, this article mentions photos from inside the hotel room. Apparently, there were drugs, alcohol, all out in the open. What do investigators even deal with that kind of evidence?
Well, for one thing, it backs up what witnesses might be saying. Helps them get a feel for what was happening in that room. Now, just because there's drugs or alcohol present doesn't automatically mean anything conclusive.
Right.
Not that simple.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something they got to look at, piece it all together.
Right, back to that puzzle, yeah.
Exactly. And then you've got Payne's own past to consider. He talked about his struggles before, right? The alcohol addiction, even having suicidal thoughts.
He did. He was actually really open about it, which I always kind of respected. But you got to be careful going down that road, too. Easy to get caught up in speculation, what might have been going on.
100%. Addiction, mental health, that's complex stuff.
Yeah.
Not something to make assumptions about, especially with someone we didn't know personally. What we can say is being in the spotlight like that, so young, it takes a toll. It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah. Makes you think about the person behind the fame, all the stuff they're dealing with that we never really see.
And those struggles, they're real. Deserve compassion. It's easy to forget. Celebrities, they're human beings too. Got their own battles going on.
And in this case, it's like the timing of it all just adds another layer of sadness.
Yeah.
He was on this trip with his girlfriend, but she'd left for Florida like 2 days before. Just makes you wonder how he was feeling,
Oh, absolutely. That kind of loss, even if it was temporary, it can hit you hard. We can't say for sure what was going through his head, but grief, confusion, feeling lost, those are all normal reactions to something like that.
Yeah, it's just, you can't help but feel for everyone involved.
It's a tragedy no matter how you look at it. And it makes you think about Payne's son, too. I mean,
Yeah.
losing a parent so young, no matter the circumstances, that's got to be incredibly difficult.
Heartbreaking. And it makes you think about how how we deal with these things as a society, all this
Hmm.
information coming out and the speculation, everyone's got an opinion. How do we even begin to process something like this responsibly? It's a lot.
It really is, especially now. Everything's instant, right? News, social media, it's easy to get swept up in it all, make judgments before we have the full story. And with a case like this, investigation's still going on. Being cautious is key. Wait for the official word, don't buy into every rumor, and remember, there's always more to it than what we see in the headlines.
More to it than just a headline, exactly.
Exactly.
And I think the biggest thing to remember through all this is you said it before, there's a human element here. A life was lost, and there are people grieving, a family hurting.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah,
We can try to understand, but we do it with empathy, with respect. That's what matters.
well said. It's, like I said, tough topic today, but an important one. Really appreciate your insights on this, helping us make sense of it all.
Happy to help anytime.